Hello and welcome to another episode of Junior Fisherman. In this episode, we're going to be talking about my tackle. Now this is my tackle box. It's just a backpack because I bank fish, and we used to have a tackle box and I used to use just a plain old tackle box, but a backpack really cuts down on what you have to carry. It holds a lot of gear, just as much as a tackle box. And it just basically allows you to carry your rod better and keeps you, you don't have to carry a big tackle box around. You can just put this on your back and there you have your tackle. So starting down in the front, in this very front pocket here, I've got, this pocket actually has a bungee cord on it that keeps it tight. I've got my scent. This is Power Bait bass attractant. You can put it on your soft plastics and hard baits and stuff. So that's a good bait, a good scent. And I've got some 4-pound string monofilament for my ultralight, or the bass are finicky for a very light leader. Those are the things that I keep in there because I'm going to be getting this scent out a lot and the line needs to be accessible. I also keep some 10-pound spider wire mono in there. I just don't have it right there on the moment. In this next compartment here, I've got my fly box. I like to tie a bunch of flies, so I've got a little fly box. Some bass flies, bluegill flies. I've got, the only other thing in there is my scale. It's a digital Rapala scale. Small, but it does work pretty well. Goes up to 25 pounds. And I've never caught 25-pound bass, or any fish. So there's my scale. My fly box is in there as well, just because I'm going to get that up often to change flies and stuff. Now, there's a second pocket here. There's two main pockets. There's a pocket here and a big pocket here. And in this pocket here, it's very interesting because it actually has this like pencil holder thing and then a bunch of room and this clip. Attached to the clip are my clippers that are just on this long lanyard thing that's got knots tied in it somehow. I don't know how it's got knots tied in, but it's just clipped in there. So that when I need to cut some off, I just pull it up like that. Otherwise, I'll disconnect them like from that and put them in my pocket. Then my hospital hemostats. These work well for gut hooked fish. They work a lot better than pliers because they're a lot skinnier. And I like to fish for bluegill a lot, so pliers don't really work well for unhooking bluegill. I've got a bobber. I have several more bobbers, but that's the one that's loose in there. Down on the bottom, I've got some of these. These are my Power Bait crappie nibbles. They're yellow. Let's get one out for you. Basically, they're a tiny little panfish dough bait that doesn't stink in here. You can mold it on your hook, and it works pretty well to catch bluegill. If I don't want to haul around like worms or Slim Jim, then I use these. I have my panfish box right here. In the first compartment I've got, hang on. In the first compartment I have my hooks right here. And I've got some sinkers. All my jig heads are right here. I've got a bunch of soft plastics, little soft plastics. Don't know the names of them except this is the big bite baits. Frog, which, believe it or not, if you take one in half, you pull the legs off, it makes a great tadpole imitation. And this is the Crappie Max Jake, I want to say, in electric chicken. And I just have a bunch of like beetle spin bodies and curly tail grubs. Up here I've got some bigger curly tail swim baits that I use if I'm going after a little bitty bass or bigger bluegill, and then one paddle tail swim bait. Now this is a double-sided box because I can never fit all my panfish stuff in one box. On this other side, we've got some little flying lures, some 2-inch ones. This color, a frog pattern, actually 2 frog patterns, and 2 purple ones, and 2 pumpkin seed ones, and a crawfish-like one. And a spare jig head. This is a pretty cool banfish jig head because it's weedless. So, and then 2 small lures. These are the only 2 lures, hard baits I use for panfish. The Rebel crawfish-like bait, and the Rapple Original Floating Minnow, the 2-inch one. This catches monstrous bluegill. Well, actually, there is one other bait. Now, again, I would usually have some bobbers in here. I keep 2 little weighted bobbers in there, but those, I'm not sure where they are at the moment. Not in there. I have one other lure that I do use for panfish. Let me put this box on. One other lure that I use that also catches some absolute monstrous bluegill. And it's in this next compartment here. It's actually in my lure box right here. And I don't keep a lot of lures. I don't fish with lures a lot. Here's this little panfish lure. It's a 2-inch Rebel Crick Hopper. This, believe it or not, fished under a float or just casted, is an awesome lure for big panfish. You can fish it at the top and just sort of wiggle it, and they come up and slam it. Got some more crawfish baits. These work really well for smallmouth bass in a creek. I've got two Rapple Original Floating Minnows in this like chartreuse trout color, and in this color, like a silver blue black color. Pretty good color for clear water. And this is one of my few crankbaits. It's the, what's it called? The Matsu Shad, I think. It's got another name, but it's the Matsu Shad. It's a round-billed crankbait. Dives, I think, 4 to 5 feet. 4 to 12 feet, something like that. But it's interesting because I got those flared gills, as you can see. So it creates a wider wobble and looks angry. It's got some rattles in there. So it's an interesting bait. Haven't really tried it out yet, but definitely going to. I just got it from one of my friends. Now I have one other bait that I'm trying to find a spot for. And it's the Matsu big like jerk bait, floating jerk bait that dives 4 to 12 feet. And I'm trying to find a spot for that, but unfortunately it doesn't quite fit in my lure box. It's over half as long as it. So it's a big bait. It's got a big couple of rattles in there. It's a reaction bait. It's also in that like fire tiger chartreuse trout-like color. And then I've got also in my crankbait my other round bill crankbait, I have this little, what is it? Rebel Teeny R. It's a Rebel Teeny R, and if you notice the back hook, it's not the same size as the front hook, or the same color. It's because I had to replace the back hook. But the Rebel Teeny R, it's like 2 inches long, crawfish pattern, and it's a very good bass bait. Now, I've got my 2 square bill crankbaits. I don't use crankbaits a lot. I keep these 2 tiny ones in there. The reason you may have noticed I use a lot of small baits, like this, believe it or not. Actually, I guess this would be my biggest, like, minnow style bait. I have a couple swim baits and stuff, but the ones I usually bring, this or hold on. These are my biggest baits. Big old bluegill swim bait. A Rapala DT 4 in the baby bass pattern. The Matsu jerkbait. And the, what is it? Rapala shad wrap. In a bleeding shad color, so you can see. Got a lot of rattles in it. Those are my 4 biggest baits. And then I have, like I was saying, these 2 small little square bill crankbaits. I've got a crawfish pattern and a baby bass color. Now you may be wondering why I use such small baits. Like I said, this is my biggest. I fish creeks and rivers. I don't really fish lakes. Creeks and small rivers are the only things I really fish. So anything bigger than this is a little big. Like this is just on the verge of being too big. But sometimes they're feeding on bluegill. So I usually just use small baits. I've got a whole mess of lipless crankbaits, and here's one in baby bass color. But I've also got 2 right there, and then 1 inline spinner, which works pretty well for creek fishing. I have got 2 more inline spinners. Here's one that I actually cut 2 of the treble hook points off of. I cut them off because I use this one for bluegill, and I cut the treble hook points off so that they could eat it easier. And I've got 1 spoon that I rigged up. There's a very interesting technique, and you can usually use a Siwash style hook. This is just a long shank hook, so as you can see, it can't move freely. It only can sit right there on the split ring where they're just before the groove. So I want to get some Siwash style hooks. Basically, you remove the treble hook off the spoon, and then you put a single hook on, and you can add any soft plastic that you want. And this catches bass, bluegill, crappie, walleye, almost anything. Striped bass. It's a great little technique. I learned this at a very interesting website called InFisherman. They have a lot of interesting videos and tips. But here's my Phoebe that I got at our convenience store. It's like a chartreuse color. It's a pretty good panfish bait. I like the treble hook it comes with. It already comes with this tiny little treble hook, so perfect. And then I have 1 rattle trap in chartreuse, like actually in fire tiger. That is a lot of rattles. Alright, let me get those things back in. Okay. Now my big box. This is my bass box. And you will find out rather quickly that I like soft plastic fishing. I don't carry bags upon bags of soft plastics. I just put in soft plastics that I want to use, and that's good. I've got my hooks and a couple more lures in this compartment here. I've got worms, spoon, and a bunch of flying lures, a bell, well that's just for catfish fishing, and then some other like jigs and stuff over here. And I'll show you one by one. I've got the, what's it called? Cabela's Fisherman Series Finesse Worm. So like a straight-tailed worm. I've got the Cabela's Fisherman Series 6-inch straight-tailed worm, the watermelon red flake. This is like the best clear water and early morning bass fishing worm color that there is, that watermelon red flake color. That actually caught my dad a 1.96 pound bass and several smaller bass, and I caught a 3.96 pound bass. So 3 pound bass on these worms. I got motor oil worms, these power worms, and motor oil, get it out, motor oil chartreuse tail. Now believe it or not, motor oil actually looks green underwater, which is why I like it. So it doesn't look unnatural. I've got a couple lizards. Here's one. Zoom, like 6-inch lizards. Then I've got my purple worms. I've got the Berkeley Power Worm in purple, and the Berkeley Power Worm in like Junebug hot pink tail color. So then I've got some Senkos in like a shad color, some Senkos in pumpkin seed or watermelon, probably pumpkin seed, and some river bugs, and a couple, actually two Berkeley fighting bugs. This one's, the antennas are gone and it's a little bit ripped up because I caught a half-pound bass on it. But I've got another one down there. Now I've also got a saltwater assassin in here. Right here, the shrimp one. And you probably are wondering, why is that in your bass box? It's in my bass box because it really resembles a fluke. I don't know if you have ever seen a fluke, but it resembles a big minnow. It's got all these joints. It's got a lot of action in there. So I think it will work like a soft jerkbait. Now, my flying lures, I'm just gonna go use, this is a flying lure, a flat like tube. I've got black, red, purplish green, white with pepper flakes, 2 frog colors, a yellow, and then some watermelon colors. Now I also have a Johnson silver minnow, which is really good for bass fishing because it's weedless and you can put worms and stuff as a trailer. So these are definitely good. And I have 2 leaders that I tied up, Texas rig leaders, because I like to fish with a snap on my bass rod so that I can save time when I'm bank fishing. I've got 1 spinnerbait, black and yellow spinnerbait with a single Colorado blade. Now the blade is dented, it's hammered, so it gives off a lot more vibration flash. A purple jig, with a Berkeley power worm purple tail on it. A frog that I had to replace the legs on, so I added some new legs with a rubber band. A watermelon jig. One chatterbait in watermelon. And a little bitsy flip in crawfish color. Now, about this chatterbait, I switch skirts a lot. Like, I can fish with one jig head and go purple crawfish watermelon. One after another. Just switch out the skirts because of that collar. Just pull them off, put a new one on. So I can switch the color of this chatterbait if it's like, let's say, murky water. If it's clear water, I'll keep it like this. Murky water, I'll put on the purple skirt. All those are in the same pocket because they're basically weedless. And I've been trying to find a place for these. Like I said, they're the crankbaits and stuff. I'm not really sure. I'll probably actually have to have a separate box for them. But I'll figure something out. So that's my bass box. What do I have? Oh yeah. 2 more worms. I call these my messed up worms because they got put in with a purple worm and they turned kind of red. Like that tail used to be chartreuse. That's now orange. I've got several red zoom trick worms, which I actually really like. But, so I don't throw these worms out. I just like them because they're different colors. And a couple of these watermelon and red lizards. Well, they used to be just watermelon, but now they're watermelon red. That doesn't bother me. They're actually in a cooler compartment in this backpack. Keep them protected from the heat. Now, these are the same thing, power worms. However, they're not messed up. All I did is, if you can see that stuff that's in there with them, make them slide really easy. It's this Berkeley bass attractant. Put that in there because they soak up the scent, and I have some bass attractant scented power worms. So, just a little technique I learned. And I'm pretty sure, oh wait, the rod. I have several rods, but my bass rod, I'm just going to go over my bass rod. I have an ultralight. Here's my bass rod. It's got 15-pound braid on it, made by spider wire. It's a, let's see, medium action, 6-foot rod. And here's like the fluke bait I showed you. At least, actually the saltwater assassin. I just call it a fluke bait. You can see my snap on there is really tiny. Not even an inch long. But that just allows me to disconnect really fast. And fish don't really care about a snap that much. This rod and reel is made by Shakespeare. It's the Shakespeare Catch More Fish Pond and Lake series. I really, really like it. It's a very nice rod. And that is pretty much my tackle. So hopefully you can get out there and catch some more fish. Thanks for watching.